I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. If you've been looking at my website, starborninstitute.org, you'd understand that the title of tonight's show sounds a little bit ominous, but it's not really. The title is "The End is Coming." And that's a strange title to have on a day when we're having a new moon, because today we're having a fabulous new moon at 23 degrees of Leo. And Leo is ruled by the sun and the new moon are there. And so a new moon always denotes a new beginning. But I think something's got to end first, and I think that there are going to be some endings coming up. And it might be good if we prepared for that a little bit, or at least understood that it's on its way. And the reason why is because this is a very unusual new moon. And the unusual part about it is that of the 10 planets up there, 7 of them, or 70% of all the planets in the heavens right now, are in the last decan of their sign. They're in the last 10 degrees of the sign. So they're getting ready to move on out. And that could be the anticipation of something that is ending. That, for instance, they're ending their stay in the sign they're in. And that includes the new moon today, because the new moon is at 23 degrees of Leo. And so the ancient wise men centuries ago realized that yes, there were 12 sun signs and different rulers, and way back in time they hadn't discovered Uranus yet, so they thought that Saturn ruled Capricorn and Uranus. And that's probably because Aquarius, which is a very fixed sign, has a steadiness just like the pattern planet Saturn does. And so they said, okay, each sun sign has an overall ruler. And let's take the example of today's new moon. Well, the sun rules Leo. It's at home in the sign it rules. So that's good for every Leo, because they can be very energetic and feel great right now. But the ancient wise men said, well, why aren't all people the same under one sun sign? In other words, why aren't all Leos the same? Well, they studied what was going on in human behavior, which is how they set all this up, was from observation. And they said, all right, there's 12 sun signs, but there's only 4 elements, and they're fire, air, earth, and water in Western astrology. And so they said, okay, that means that each element would have 3 signs that are all in the same element. And for instance, the sun and the new moon in Leo are in a fire sign. And so they broke it up a little bit to explain the differences in human behavior which can occur under the same sun sign. And they did that for all the sun signs. So if you're wondering why you're not exactly like somebody else that is born under your same sun sign, it's because they invented sub-rulers. And each 10 degrees of a sign, and each sign theoretically has 30 degrees in it, because there's 12 of those, and so 12 times 30 is 360 degrees, and that makes the circle that your chart is in. And so they said, okay, each sign has 30 degrees. We're going to divide that by 3 and say that the first 10 degrees of a sign are ruled or sub-ruled by the overall ruler of the sign. So for today's new moon in Leo, which is ruled by the sun, we already know that people born early in Leo under the first 10 degrees of the sign are sub-ruled by the sun, which is the overall ruler of Leo. But people born in the second 10 degrees of Leo are sub-ruled by a different planet. And so what the wise men did is they said, all right, the second 10 degrees of any sign are sub-ruled by the next following sign. And so the second 10 degrees of Leo are sub-ruled by the overall ruler of the next fire sign, and that is Sagittarius. So the people that are born sort of right in the middle of the sign of Leo, and have their sun in that middle 10 degrees are very jolly because their subruler is ruled by Jupiter. And they're generally optimistic people, perhaps somewhat intellectual. Sagittarius is an intellectual sign. And so that's why, not everybody is the same, even though they're born under the same sun sign. And then the last 10 degrees of a sign are also subruled by the next following sign that's in the same element. So for the fire signs, the next following sign for the last 10 degrees of Leo would be Aries. And so the subruler of anyone, say, that is born today, or a new baby born today, the subruler for their birthday, and for anybody that's born in the last 10 degrees of Leo, is actually Mars. And Mars is a very dynamic planet. Mars rules two signs, Aries and Scorpio, but this would be the ruler of the fire sign Aries. And that Mars would indicate somebody who is a Leo, but they're a go-getter Leo. They're very dynamic. They would be impatient and impulsive, and they would want to be first. Aries rules the first house of self. And so they could certainly want to spend a lot of their time promoting their own interests. And they would be very enthusiastic about making new starts, because that's what Aries rules. And they're not too concerned with how things end, though. They're not always concerned with sticking around for the end of something. Maybe they think somebody else can do that. But they really like getting new things off the ground. They also like being boss. Aries rules the first house of self, or the I am. And so a Leo born in the last 10 degrees of the sign of Leo, late in Leo, would be someone that would be pretty good at promoting their own interests and would want to get ahead. And so they'd be very ambitious on their own behalf. And so that's why, even if today you are experiencing the wonderful aspects of the sun and moon conjuncting in Leo at 23 degrees, at 23 is in that last decan of Leo, which means that we are under the influence of this new moon. For all of us, we are under the influence also of the subruler of the sign, which is Mars. And it's a Mars that rules Aries, and being impulsive and somewhat always wanting to be first and sort of ahead of things. Not at all worried about how something finally ends up. Maybe somebody else can finish things. Aries doesn't rule finishing. But they can have a lot of energy to get up and go. And since Leo rules entertainment and drama, the fact that this new moon is subruled by Mars means that there can be some people that are wanting to push their own interests forward right now and can be quite dramatic about it. So that's sort of what we have to watch out for, as far as the fact that there are 70% of all the planets now today that are subruled. Not just they're ruled by the overall sign, ruler of the overall sign, but they're in such late degrees, 7 of them, that they are all under the influence of the sub-rulers of the last 10 degrees of their signs, where they're at. And so what are those 7 planets? Because that's why the end is coming. There's just too many planets that are close to the end of their signs. And they're going to change. So we're going to have to change with them. And so the sun and the moon are at 23 degrees of Leo. Right ahead of that are Mercury at 20 degrees of Virgo, and it's conjuncting Mars at 23 degrees of Virgo. And then ahead of them is Pluto, which is retrograding Capricorn, and it's at 29 degrees. That's the degree of fate. Something's really going to happen as far as careers and business and governments go, because that's what Capricorn rules, and pensions. And then ahead of that, Neptune in Pisces is retrograde, but it's at 27 degrees. And so it's in the last decan of its sign. And then ahead of that is Uranus in Taurus, at 23 degrees, exactly square the sun and the new moon. So there's a standalone factor that we have to consider under this new moon, and it is that the sun and new moon and Venus are in Leo. Venus is at 19 degrees, it's retrograde today, but it is actually conjuncting the sun and the new moon. But they stand alone because there are no planets in the other fire signs. There's nothing trining them. And there are 5 planets in the fixed signs. And the 3 planets in Leo, the sun, new moon, and Venus, are all being squared by Jupiter and Uranus. But unfortunately, the sun and new moon at 23 degrees are exactly square Uranus in Taurus at 23 degrees. So it can indicate that the value of our investments can fluctuate at any time. That's Saturn rules sudden, not Saturn, but Uranus rules sudden surprising change, and it's in a financial sign that rules investments. And so what it means is that there is the possibility that some investments are not going to be worth as much as people thought, or they'll be either downgraded or they've just lost value. And there's also the possibility that high salaries now cannot be supported. And the reason why is that businesses and even governments can realize that things are changing and they may have to cut back. It may be that there's just not enough cash to support high salaries anymore, or not so many high salaries. And it can also be that the value of companies or the value of your own investments could fall suddenly. And so that has to be factored in to the fact that the end is coming. And what I think it is the end of is the end of sort of an affluent lifestyle, or an easy way of handling money, or expecting that things will continually grow in value, or expecting that, well, you don't have to work too hard, you're going to get your high salary anyway. That's what's coming to an end. And it will be because there are just too many planets very late in the degrees of the signs they're in. You can't have 70% of all the planets getting ready to change signs and not expect a change. It's coming. And so I think it's the end of sort of the status quo of things that have been going on that we've all just been taken for granted maybe, but they could change. And so what would the outcome be? The outcome could be specific to the way the planets are set up. And so the outcome of having the sun and the new moon in Leo at 23 degrees, subruled by Mars, exactly square Uranus in Taurus, also at 23 degrees. And actually Mars and Uranus are 2 malefic planets. And they're in harsh aspect, it's the sun and the moon that are in harsh aspect to Uranus, but they are subruled by Mars, so you have to take that into account. And what it means is that I think there will be a change in the money, and that someone is going to be caught short. They'll be caught short. You know, they'll think, oh, I've got all this money coming in. No, they're going to be caught short because there's going to be a change in the money. I hope that isn't you and me, but somebody, it's going to happen to somebody. And then there is the possibility that we all can be affected by a terrible thing that is happening right now. And, let's just hope some of these planets do move on pretty quick. Because we are all under the influence of a very harsh opposition in mutable signs between 4 planets. And it is Mercury and Mars, which are conjuncting. They're twice as strong in Virgo. And Mercury is the ruler and Mars is a malefic planet. And they are directly opposing Neptune, the ruler of Pisces, and also Saturn in Pisces, which is a malefic planet. So these 4 planets are opposing each other, and that is simply an indication of irreconcilable differences. It also can lead to real trouble. And one way it could lead to real trouble, since Pisces rules things behind the scenes, it can be that there could be someone around, or even a group, or even people in the media, you never know, who have gotten away with making false accusations or spreading malicious rumors about somebody in the public eye who could have suffered from what you might call defamation of character. In other words, in America, you're supposed to be not guilty. I mean, you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. It's not that we're supposed to believe people that go around saying, hey, that person is guilty or that person is guilty. That isn't the way we work. You know what that's called? If you do it verbally, when you're verbally accusing somebody of that is really based more on malicious gossip or suspicion or innuendo, whether it's you or somebody else you know and their friends. If you do it verbally, I think it's called slander. If you do it in print or you do it in the media where you're spreading malicious rumors, I think it's called libel. Now, I'm not a lawyer, I don't know that for sure, but I do know of a case of a very prominent public figure that got real tired of having malicious things said about them, and he sued. He sued who did that, and he won big. In fact, it bankrupted the person who had been spreading the rumors. And the person who sued, it was a famous case years ago, not too many years ago, but it ended the rumors. It also ended the fortunes of the person that was spreading the rumors and anybody else who participated. So this opposition of people who have irreconcilable differences, if that gets too far out of hand and malicious gossip without any real proof, the kind of proof you take to court, has been spread around, that could result in the initiation of a defamation of character lawsuit. And somebody could be a lot poorer for that. So, gee, I hope that isn't any of us. But word to the wise, if you can't prove it, don't say it, or print it, or tell your friends to do that, because you could be a lot broker. Lawsuits are expensive, and when you lose, they're even more expensive. So that could come out of this clash of people with irreconcilable differences right now. And so my advice to anybody who's around people that are fighting with each other is stay away. Just get as far away from those people as you can while these aspects are going on. A third result or outcome of the fact that, we're coming to the end, or the end is coming, is the fact that that when we take a look at this fabulous grand trine in the earth signs, which has been going on for about a month now, boy, those lucky earth signs, they've been doing okay. There are still 5 planets in the earth signs, and they are in the grand trine, so that's wonderful. But when you take a closer look at those 5 planets, 4 of them are all in the last 10 degrees of their sign. They're getting ready to leave. Something is coming to an end. Because Jupiter is in Taurus, well, it's at 15 degrees. It's the only one of the 5 planets that is not leaving the sign. Jupiter's going to stay in Taurus for almost a year. But Uranus is at 23 degrees. It's getting ready to leave. And it's trining, both those planets are trining Mercury and Mars in Virgo, but Mercury is at 20 degrees, Mars is at 23 degrees. They're going to take off and end too. And then those 4 planets are trining Pluto in Capricorn at the 29th degree of fate, and Pluto is still the only planet that is not being challenged by anything. There are no planets in any other cardinal signs. And so surely there's something that is destined to come to an end. And what I think it is that since Pluto rules people that are sort of high up in management, or they could be the heads of governments, or corporations, or agencies, or institutions, I think that a changing of the power structure, or a changing of the old guard, and the ending of the old guard is assured. It could be a power group as well. because generally in the old guard there's more than one person. So it could be a power group, and they are ending, and they're destined to end. I think the ending, they might be happy that it's all ending, because there's no harsh aspects to Pluto. But still, what's really ending is the fact that this grand trine has been sort of holding us up, what you might say, in an economic way. The earth signs all work with practical reality. Virgo rules your jobs. Pluto rules your career. Taurus rules your investments. 4 of the 5 planets in this grand trine are heading on out. They're in the last decan of the sign. So they're actually being ruled by the sub-ruler of the last decan of their signs, not just the overall ruler. And so you really have to take a look at what's happening. And so despite controversy, irreconcilable differences, or mental anguish, or anger about anything, despite all of that, today is a new moon. It's not supported by anything, but it's still a new moon. And it's under pressure, but still, a new moon means a new beginning. But a new beginning cannot occur until something comes to an end. And 70% of all the planets are going to do that. They're going to end and go into another sign. And so we've got to get ready for that. That your new beginning doesn't just happen because the new moon is today. It only happens if something else ends first. That is more or less meant to be, is meant to end. So we have that to think about. Sorry it took so long. Some explanations you can't say in just a few words. You have to make sure that people understand things. Okay, so what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Aries. Well, Aries, for you, since the lucky north node is in your sign, that's good for you, Aries. That simply means that, you could make a new friend anytime you wanted to, Aries, or you could be a new friend to somebody else. And the sun and the new moon and Venus in Leo today, although they're under duress, they are all trining your sun, where you have the north node of the moon. So I think that you are about to start something new, Aries. And so if you have not decided to end something, I would do it if I were you. I'd do the ending first so you can make a new beginning. Because you're aspected to succeed at that. And you would get some pretty enthusiastic help with that, Aries, because your ruler, Mars, is the sub-ruler of this new moon. The new moon and the sun are at 23 degrees of Leo. And Venus is at 19, but it's conjuncting them. And the sun and the new moon are sub-ruled by Mars, your ruler. That ties you to something that is ending, but also something that's beginning, Aries. In a way, I think you're pretty lucky to be where you are right now. And if you don't look at the reason why you're there, and you just say to yourself, well, what's next? The picture could be looking pretty good, Aries. And so I hope that you do end something as soon as you can, so that you can make a much better new beginning. Because you could really do it right now. And Aries don't like to wait for anything. They like to just, they sort of like to be in control of the situation, or be first, or give the order, or something like that. But maybe right now, Aries, you just have to tell yourself to do it. End something quickly, and then go right ahead and start something new. And it will be with someone else. You'll have help with some new beginning. So congratulations. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Taurus. Well, Taurus, remember I said the grand trine in the earth signs is still holding. Well, that's good. That's good for getting work done. It's good for being practical. It's good for problem solving. It's good for looking at your retirement plans, or your pension, or your investments. And notice I said looking. It's when you look a little closer at the 5 planets that are still in a grand trine in earth signs, the only one that's not going to be moving or changing quickly is Jupiter in your own sign. And Jupiter in Taurus usually rules high-priced real estate, or commercial real estate, or things that are pretty pricey and expensive. So you could still have your eyes on all of that, Taurus. But you know, there might be a problem coming up right away and that you need to address. And it is that it would be terrible if some of the value of your investments suddenly fell and you were caught short of money. But it might happen. And the reason why, now it doesn't mean that you wouldn't have some asset, which might be expensive real estate, that you could sell to cover yourself. That's certainly possible. But actually, today's sun and new moon at 23 degrees of Leo with Venus conjuncting them are all squared by Uranus at 23 degrees in your sign. And so that's a real harsh square. And either you or someone you know has been scattering their forces. 23 reduces to 5. It's a scattering number. And so you might have been sort of having interest in, say, at least 2 different camps or groups or ways of doing things. You know, you could have been doing a little of this and a little of that, Taurus. And it's probably better that one of them ends. And so that you can, Taurus has a reputation for being a good hard worker. And you know, if you split your efforts, the results are going to split too. And a Taurus wouldn't like that. So, you know, just say to yourself, okay, which one should I be concentrating on now? And which one can I pick up later? It's not like you have to drop something completely. But if I were you, I would, you know, quietly realize that there's just not enough cash around. There's not enough money around anymore. Well, why could that be? Oh, because of the high debt that not only individuals have, and countries have, and governments have, and corporations have, and banks have. I mean, really, it could be, you know, little blocks that keep falling down like dominoes if we're not careful. And so the thing that's coming to an end is the whole idea, and it's a misconception now, that you can have everything. And it's not possible anymore. There isn't enough money around to do that. And so you should prioritize and maybe, you know, concentrate. You're really good at working hard at something. And I would do just one thing right now and say, okay, I'll put off that second thing until later. And that way I think you can be successful and take advantage of the fact that Jupiter is in your sign for a year. You should try to do the best you can, but don't split your efforts, Taurus. This Grand Trine in Earth signs actually not going to hold for too much longer. And you really have to concentrate on good problem solving and sort of getting your life in order and not taking on too much. Don't stretch yourself too thin. It would be very expensive if you did that. So don't. Just consolidate your forces if you can and pick up something else later on. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Gemini. Well, Gemini, there aren't any planets in the air signs again, but in a way that's all right, because you could be sort of having troubles of your own. Not that you made them, Gemini. Okay, with no planets in air signs, you know, what the air signs have to, all 3 air signs have to contend with is the problems that other people are presenting. It's not what you're presenting, Gemini. It's that, you know, problems could be headed your way. Oh boy, they would be threatening too. And the reason why, and so that's happening around you. And you need to be careful about that. Because your own ruler, Mercury, is squaring your sun along with Mars in Virgo, and Saturn and Neptune in Pisces are also squaring your sun. Okay, and so these 4 planets that are opposing each other and squaring your sign and the sign of Sagittarius simply indicates that somewhere in your life, Gemini, you are maybe surrounded or forced to be associated with people who have irreconcilable differences. Somewhere in your life there are people like that, is what I'm saying. And Gemini, just as I've been telling Sagittarius, if you step in between people with irreconcilable differences, you're going to get smashed from both sides. And two malefic planets opposing each other, oh, it doesn't get much worse than that. But the two rulers of these signs are opposing each other too. So you could be caught up with somebody who's really a mental case and is lying through their teeth about something. But on the other hand, you could get caught up with somebody that thinks their ideas or what they say are the only truth that they on this planet, and they're going to stress that and refuse to consider anybody else's point of view. They can be dogmatic about that. So that doesn't go with the general Gemini nature. Geminis are versatile and adaptable, and they like getting along with a lot of different people, and they can do a lot of different things. They can work part-time or do something temporary. They're extremely good at communicating in any form of communication. But sometimes it just pays to be quiet, Gemini. This is one of those times. Mainly because the air signs don't have any support. There's nothing in them. But even if there was, look at what you're up against. You know, you're up against people that just don't agree. Well, let them fight it out, Gemini, but do not get caught in the crosshairs. You will regret that. So sort of play it cool this week, Gemini, and continue thinking about what you'd like to do in your future. That's a more productive way of spending your time. Just plan for your own future. And don't tell anybody this week. Just go ahead and do it anyway. Good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer. Cancer, there's a ton of activity going on in the background of your life right now, because the Sun and the new moon in Leo and Venus, which is conjunct both of them, are right behind your sun sign. They have no support, and they're facing some fierce challenges. And so a lot going on in the background of your life, Cancer. And I think that you have to say, okay, there's only 24 hours in the day. I cannot spend all my time being concerned with what other people are doing. And that's not selfish. That may actually involve self-preservation. You know, maybe the only way for you to obtain some peace of mind is to quietly, very quietly, go ahead and work on a precious dream, because your sign has the support of Neptune in Pisces, which is the sign it rules, and Saturn in Pisces. So you have some very strong support behind you. And also creative. Neptune is a creative planet. And it rules dreams. And so, but Saturn rules reality. And so if ever the water signs were going to make a dream come true, they'd have to face reality in order to do it. And all I'm saying, Cancer, is, you know, carve out some time when you can do that, because you're aspected to succeed at that. And if I were you, I would not advertise what you're doing. Just do it. You don't owe anybody an explanation, particularly not about your own dreams and and what you consider to be very important to you. That's private. And, you know, you can make a dream come true and still be quiet about it, Cancer. And if I were you, I would do that. Just be as quiet as you can. Because even though Neptune and Saturn are supporting you, they are part of this terrible opposition among mutable signs that indicate people with irreconcilable differences. So they're sort of under that pressure. And all I'm saying is try not to be too involved with that, Cancer. Instead, very quietly, just figure out that your private dream is no one's business except yours and whoever else the dream involves. And, you know, if you want to be quiet about something, there's nothing wrong with that. Plus, it makes it a little easier to accomplish something if you're quiet about it. So go ahead and do that, Cancer, while you have this very strong support of these two planets in Pisces. I think you almost have to do it without telling anybody else or without anybody noticing. So it would have to be something that's sort of simple and low-key. But you'd succeed at it, so I encourage you to do that. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, you remember, an ending is coming. And it's undeniable because there are 70% of the planets that are all in the last decan of the sign, including the sun and new moon in your sign today, Leo, because it's at 23 degrees. So anybody that, say, has a birthday and it's in the later sign of Leo, particularly from the 20 degrees to the end of Leo, those would be people who are subruled by Mars, the Mars that rules Aries. So they would be very dynamic, and they would be very forceful, and they would sort of want to be in the spotlight and be first. And they are very enthusiastic about making new beginnings. And they're not really too concerned about follow-up, because Aries doesn't rule endings. But they have that Martian, they're good at sort of demanding things, or planning things, or wanting things. And so that is involved in this new moon today, Leo. And so think about what you'd like to do. There are no planets in the other fire signs, so there's no support for this new moon. And Jupiter and Uranus and Taurus are squaring it, and Uranus is squaring the new moon exactly. And that simply means that somebody, and it might be you, Leo, is going to get, there's going to be a change in the money, and they're going to get caught short. Now, you know, Leo rules extravagance, and so maybe you can't buy the most expensive thing you've got your eye on because you might be caught short, or have, you know, maybe the high salaries, the days of high salaries are in the past or will be soon. And so maybe you'll have to adjust your budget a little bit, but I don't think that would stop a Leo. You know, Leo not only rules extravagance, it rules generosity. So Leos like to have fun. And, you know, this is a good time to still do that, Leo. I would just say, try to do things on a smaller budget, because they can be just as much fun. And you might be running a little short of money in one way or another. And it could be due to the value of investments falling, or it could simply be that you might have overextended yourself a little bit. Leos are known to do that at times, and you have to sort of pull in your belt. Well, you could do that, couldn't you? You know, you're lucky, Leo. The sun, the new moon, and Venus are all together today in your sign. So it isn't being supported, and it's being severely challenged financially, but still, you could be ready to make a new beginning. And you know, I think it would be something that you would love to do. Absolutely love to do it. That's because Venus is the planet of love, and it's conjuncting the sun and moon today. So, okay, you can't have everything your own way, Leo, but you could start something new that you would love to do. And, you know, as long as you sort of kept it within a reasonable budget, you could probably have a pretty good time. And so you have that to look forward to. But if you are in debt, or if the value of things falls a little bit, then you would have to somehow maybe start something new in order to create additional income, just to cover either your debts or your bills or high taxes or something like that. So it might be a good idea that you start something new. But just realize, Leo, that something is really coming to an end. And if it isn't ending for you personally, then it is ending around you, and it will still affect you. And I just think that you're so much better looking forward and not back, because you have good planets in your sign. So, you know, just look forward. And if there's, you know, there's a lot of problems with people right now. Some people have irreconcilable differences. Some people are suffering under a physical or a mental impairment, and they've got to make changes in their life because of that. Some people are just done with their careers for one reason or another, and they're reprioritizing things in their life, which is probably a good idea. in order to give them more peace of mind. And if that's what you would like, then this is a good time for you to do that too, Leo. With the sun and the new moon conjuncting your sign today, in your sign, that's the lights. And so you're going to be able to see something real clearly, Leo. And, you know, if it's something that bothers you in one way or another, then don't look back. Because start thinking and discipline yourself to do this. Start thinking of a better future or something new or new people coming into your life. You have the possibility of meeting somebody who would be rather lucky for you. And the reason why is the north node of the moon is in Aries. And remember, Mars ruler is the sub-ruler of this new moon today. And Mars is the ruler of Aries. But the north node of the moon is trining that sun, moon, and Venus in your sign. That means that it could be a very lucky friend coming your way. And so, you know, don't brood about the past, Leo. It's over. You know, the title of the show is, you know, the end is coming. But some people may already see the end coming. And so, why look back? Just go forward. There are better things coming. And that's the direction you need to go in. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time, Virgo, when you can be saying to yourself, well, I know I'm right about something. And you could be, Virgo, because Mercury, your own ruler, is in your sign, and it is conjuncting Mars. Mercury is at 20 degrees, Mars is at 23 degrees. That's the last decan of your sign, Virgo. And so, let's see, what is it? It's subruled. Mars and Mercury in your sign, in the last 10 degrees of your sign right now, are subruled by, since it's the last 10 degrees, they are subruled by not the next Earth sign, but the following one, and that is Taurus, and the ruler of Taurus is Venus. And so, the subruler of Mars and Mercury in your sign today is Venus, and it's a Venus that rules money, because Taurus is a financial sign. And so you might have irreconcilable differences with somebody, but you know, Virgo, try to get over it, because you wouldn't want it to cost you any money. You know, you could actually, your sign is part of this grand trine in the Earth signs. It's not going to hold. 4 out of the 5 planets that are in the grand trine in the Earth signs are all in the last decan of the signs they're in. They're all going to change. And so Mercury and Mars in your sign is going to move on. And you're going to have to move with it, Virgo. And that's okay. But right now, what you have to do is, if I were you, I would concentrate on trying to be a little bit more open to change and open to other people's ideas. And compromise, which is ruled by Venus. Remember, these planets in your sign are sub-ruled by Venus because they're in the last 10 degrees of your sign. You know, try to be open to some sort of a compromise now, Virgo, because that could do you a world of good. And you have planets that are under severe duress in your sign. I mean, Mercury and Mars are being opposed by Neptune and Saturn. Irreconcilable differences. But you know, even that could be coming to an end if you'd sort of let it. You know. Do you have to be right about everything? Well, you like to be right about everything. And the good thing about Virgos, really concentrating on facts and details and analysis, is that they are excellent problem solvers. Okay, so just try to still see the big picture. Try to see what else you need in your life besides a solution to a problem. Generally, most people need love. And they need others around them. Virgos like their solitude. But a lot of that could drive you crazy. I think Virgos also would like being appreciated for their talent. And so you got to get out among people that can appreciate you. And stop fighting. with somebody, because it isn't worth it. Solitude is great for study. I mean, you got to concentrate in order to come up with answers. You really need to think and analyze. Okay, so you got that down, Virgo. You're real good at that. But you can't do that 24 hours a day. So if you want to have good relationships with people, it involves give and take. And it involves being out with them. So just remember that, Virgo. Irreconcilable differences, even those are coming to an end. And my advice to you is let them. And just go on your own way. And go with people that you enjoy. And that could make you happy. Remember, Venus is the sub-ruler of where these planets are now. But it is a Venus that rules Taurus, and so you got to be practical about money and possessions and things like that. But you don't have to spend your life alone, Virgo. Nobody does. And you might say, "Oh, well, I'm the only one that's right about things." Really? Arrogance is the height of stupidity. And Virgos generally are modest. They generally are not arrogant. So you don't need to be right all the time, do you, Virgo? Give an inch here and there. Could make you happier in the long run. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Libra. Well, Libra, there still aren't any planets in the air signs. But Libra, there's a lot going on around you. And, even you can be affected by people who are going through irreconcilable differences right now, because right behind your sun sign are Mercury and Mars in Virgo. And so in the background of your life, there is somebody Virgo, or Libra, that is in some sort of contentious battle right now. It could be a battle of wits. It could be a battle with the government. It could be a battle with an employer. It could be a battle with their health. They could have a health problem. Or they could be so stressed out that they're going a little crazy right now. But there's somebody around you like that, Libra. Because that's happening in the background of your life, so it's somewhere. And Libra, for your own peace of mind, and that's important to a Libra, because your sign is ruled by Venus, and Venus rules peace. For your own peace of mind, you have to wish someone well and steer them toward getting some help, or steer them towards somebody who can counsel them to help them get over these differing attitudes that are actually preventing them from making any advance in life. If you have irreconcilable differences, the only thing is your side. Okay, so you're missing everything else in the world because you're just clinging to your side. And, Libra, your sign rules partnership. You like getting along with people. And so there's somebody around that's just so stuck on their own attitude or their own conclusions about something or their own differences and their own answers. They even think they've got all the answers. And, Libra, really, how many hours in the day do you want to spend with somebody like that? It could drive you crazy. So if the end is coming, a relationship that is causing you stress because it's somebody else who's already stressed, you need to get away from that, Libra, and stay away. Perhaps they are unhealthy now, and they need some help. And it's not a layman's help, or it's not the good advice of their best friend. It's actual professional help they need. And it's better that they do that they go their way. And that leaves you with some peace of mind to be able to think more clearly about your own future. And you really should be doing that now, Libra, because it is coming up. You know, Pluto will go into Aquarius after the first of the year, and it's going to be trining your sun for decades. You got a lot of long-term planning to do, believe it or not, Libra. And the sooner that you think about all that, the better it'll be for you. So step away from the shadows of discontent that are somewhere in your life, Libra, and go forward and think that you really do have a better future. And you got to work at it, but that's okay. It's there in front of you. Embrace change because it'll just do you a world of good. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Scorpio. This is a time, Scorpio, with that Sun, New Moon, and Venus in Leo all squaring your Sun, and Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus opposing your Sun sign. You could have a few problems actually right now, Scorpio. Some of them could be financial, because the planets in Taurus are in the other fixed financial sign, and it can mean that there can be a fluctuation or a change and a fall in the value of some of your investments. And it's not actually through anything that you're doing, Scorpio. It is due to worldwide economic conditions. That's really what's changing. So when I say the end is coming, I really mean it's the end of how we are deluding ourselves that, you know, the party can just go on. It can't anymore. And the world is at war in one or even more than one area of the world, and it's on the verge of war in another big area of the world that would greatly affect world economies. And so, you know, that could, and the huge debt in a lot of countries, not just ours, but a lot of other countries, can really affect whole economies now and our investments. And so that could happen to you, Scorpio. But on the other hand, okay, if you didn't have to think of, you know, the big picture throughout the world, and you just wanted to think about what could make you happy, then this is exactly the right time for you to do that. And so the Sun, New Moon, and Venus in Leo are squaring your Sun, and so that is an indication that somebody wants to have their way, and they are thinking pretty well of themselves, and they're going to almost demand that they have their way. Okay, so this isn't going to go over with you at all, Scorpio. And so you would have to decide either to counter that right now and just put your foot down and say no, which would probably be a good idea, so that they could maybe go off and victimize somebody else instead of you, or else you could just withdraw and sort of hope they run out of steam, one way or the other. But so there's that, a problem in a relationship that is due to somebody else's demand, or their rather arrogant attitude that they know what's right and nobody else does. And that's hard to live with. So, you know, cut yourself some slack, is what I'm saying, Scorpio. You know, try to get away from that if you can. And maybe you want to concentrate on redoing your investments in some way. And I think everybody who is wanting to invest in anything or in anybody is looking for results. They're looking for what you might call people who are bankable. People who have done hard work and have results to show for it. Okay, so that's worth putting your money on, because we can't individually solve all our own problems. We need people to help us. But you know, we also need our dreams. We need people we can trust. And so you have Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, which are under duress, but they're actually trining your Sun and the Cancer Sun. And that means you have some very strong support behind you. And it's the kind of support that could help you make a dream come true, Scorpio. And that could get you out of the challenging situation you have with someone who's might be just a little bit arrogant at the moment, or else they always have been. And it's just too hard to live with. And besides, they're never wrong. So you would never be right. Who wants to be in a relationship like that? And so, you know, what I'm saying is move on to your dream. It's worth it. It will make you happier than you've ever been in your life. And there are some people and some situations now that are challenging you, and it isn't even worth it to answer the challenge, because that's not going to change anything. So something is coming to an end. And 70% of all the planets which are in the last decan of their signs and are all going to be changing is that none of us can hold on to the past. Even if we don't like change, we have to face it. And now's a pretty good time for you not only to face change, but to embrace your dream. Because somewhere, it's just waiting for you, Scorpio. You just gotta somehow reach out and touch. Make it happen. You can do it. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Sagittarius. Well, yours is a fire sign. And the full moon today is in Leo. So the sun, the new moon, and Venus in Leo are all trining your sun, Sagittarius. Well, isn't that wonderful for you? So you could be having a lot of fun right now, Sagittarius, or you could be meeting somebody that you're very attracted to. You know, that's really got something that you like. And, you know, the attraction could be mutual because Venus is trining your sun. So that's good for you. Or it can be, Sagittarius, that you're sort of deciding that you owe yourself a little fun, and you're probably going to treat yourself to something that is nice, and even if it's costly, you could really enjoy it. Well, you should do that, Sagittarius. That would be fine with so many good planets in Leo trining your sun. I would think that you'd want to plan either a trip that you want to go on, or a concert that you want to see, or just some fun activity. We're getting close to the end of the summer. You should give yourself a little vacation before the summer ends, Sagittarius. That would be nice. And the north node of the moon in Aries is trining your sun. And that means you could start something new. It could be very quick, too. It could start just like that. You know, you might walk up to somebody and say, oh, well, I've been thinking about something, because yours is an intellectual sign. And they could say, what a great idea, let's do it. It could happen, Sagittarius. So you should try to just sort of open up and smile at the world right now. And you still need to be very careful and stay away from people who have irreconcilable differences. Okay, so if you know that some people are being contentious or even just arguing with each other, it's got to be no to both of them, Sagittarius. Same thing for Gemini. You cannot afford to get involved with these people that are clashing, because you'll get hurt. And they don't have your best interests in mind. They're too stuck on their own interests. So that's why you should go and do something fun right now. And you may be able to start something with somebody else very quickly. And believe it or not, it would be just right for you, Sagittarius. So look around. Just ask yourself, what do I wish I was doing? Well, why don't you go out and try to do it, because you could get real lucky right now, Sagittarius. Sort of the stars are with you. So go do it. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, Pluto is at the 29th degree of fate in your sign, and it is one of 7 planets that are all in the last decan of their sign. And so that last decan of Capricorn, where Pluto is subruled by Mercury, the Mercury that rules Virgo. And so you could be involved with some very constructive thinking, and it could be about your job or about your health, you know, about the things that Virgo rules, or about some plans that you have, and you may decide, you know, I think I'm ready to end one career that I really should have ended before, or you may have already retired, and you may every once in a while have thought of going back to what you used to do, and that is possibly not the right choice. The right choice may be better to understand that something is coming to an end, because even if you were very good at a job that you already know how to do, you were good at one time and the times have changed. And so you would have a lot of catching up to do if you went back to something. But on the other hand, Pluto's about to move in after the first of the year into the sign that rules the future, Aquarius, where it will be staying for decades. So why don't you think of something creative that you'd rather be doing, Capricorn? Because you could actually be doing that for about the next 20 years and loving it. The Capricorns live so long, they really ought to plan to stay busy way beyond retirement age. Because what else are you going to do? You can't just sit and vegetate. So this Capricorn is a wonderful time maybe to think about a new career, one that you are in a little bit more charge of, one that suits your priorities, and particularly priorities of time. You may not want to spend 40 hours a week on something anymore. Maybe you want to only spend some days on something and do something different on other days. Well, in other words, Capricorn, you could sort of be in the driver's seat. Or if you're in a career and you really don't want to advance, you just sort of want to get the pension instead, then you might, on the side, develop some sort of hobby, just little by little, so that you are pretty well prepared to go in a new direction by the time you retire. You could do that. It's just, it's time to think long term, but you also have to almost incorporate new ideas or a new direction as well, if you're thinking long term. Because Pluto's been in your sign for almost 20 years. And that's what's coming to an end. Okay, in the 20 years that Pluto was in your sign, we saw the growth of the things that your sign rules. Big business and big government and big corporations and institutions. Okay, lots of management at the top. They may or may not have been qualified, but they were still somehow got to the top. That's what's coming to an end. And so, the power of a group or of the old guard is ending, and it's meant to be. Pluto is at the 29th degree of fate. It's meant to be. But that shouldn't stop you, Capricorn. It simply means that you do have a future. You just have to concentrate on it a little bit more. No matter what age you are or what you're doing right now, you really need to think about what you'd rather be doing in the future, because you may get a glorious opportunity to do that sooner or later. Pluto's going to be in Aquarius for years. So, I mean, you don't have to rush off right now, Capricorn. But you probably should be thinking more about not going back to something, but instead going forward to something that would really make you happy. Because you could do it. You have the talent to do it. You know, you're a hard worker. But Capricorns are very systematic. You know, they move from one thing to another. It rules administration, not skipping any steps. And they persevere. So you already have the kind of talent that is what you might call bankable talent. You just have to think of something new to do sooner or later. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Aquarius. Well, Aquarius, there aren't any planets in air signs. But, oh, Aquarius, you need to step back right now, because the Sun, the new moon, and Venus in Leo are all opposing your sun sign today. And so I would say, Aquarius, it means somebody's leaving. It can be somebody that you like, but they're leaving. You know, they're moving on. They're going to go do what they want to do. And they may be leaving because they have had a change in the money somehow, and maybe they're a little bit short, and they just have to leave. And so it could also be that they just have a great idea and they want to go follow through on the great idea. because Venus is conjuncting that sun and moon. But they're all opposing your sun, Aquarius. And Jupiter and your own ruler, Uranus, are also squaring your sun. All 5 planets in the fixed signs are challenging the other 2 fixed signs, your sign, Aquarius, and Scorpio. So what can you do, particularly since there's no backup, because there's no planets in the air signs right now? Well, once again, you just have to lay low. And this is just an optimum time for you to let your fertile imagination start working on many different things that you're just thinking about, and either write them down or go talk to somebody about these ideas, because you don't know how many other people might really like your ideas. And okay, so something is just in the idea stage. It's not in the funding stage. It's not in anything. It's not in the bureaucratic set it up and have committees stage. Nothing. But everything starts with a good idea. You know that, Aquarius, because Aquarius, they have very good imaginations. They have vision. Vision is ruled by your sign, Aquarius, because Uranus is a planet of vision. And so, even though your own ruler has been squaring your sign for the last 5 years, and it's got 2 more years of doing that, so I wouldn't bet the farm on anything right now, Aquarius, but still, if you have the vision to be thinking of new things that you'd like to see done, or that you'd like to work on or be in charge of, you need to go talk to somebody. Because there are many, many talented people in the world. And they can be well educated and have really wonderful skills. But not imagination. You know. They stick to what's right in front of them. They may not be able to sort of leap over something and say, hey, this could really work. You know, that somebody with vision can say that, but not everybody can say that. And so, the one good thing is that the people with vision, such as yourself, Aquarius, if you have the kind of vision that is going to work on something, you're going to need these people that don't have vision, but they could be real good workers. You're really going to need them. So do you see how we sort of complement each other? We don't have to have all the talent in the world. But if we blend our talent with other people's talent, all of us can succeed. It's just that you always need people with vision to get the ball rolling, particularly in America. America's moon is in Aquarius. We love to tinker. We love to invent. We love to fly. So have faith in your ideas, Aquarius, but I would suggest you go and talk to somebody about them. And I would say talk to new people. Don't get caught up in the challenges that are facing you from these 5 planets in fixed signs. I mean, if somebody wants to throw you a challenge, duck. Or make an excuse. But don't respond. Just use your vision to keep going, Aquarius. Because that's really going to open up a whole new future for you, starting as early as January. So go forward, not back. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces. This is a time, Pisces, when you can sort of be feeling the heat. And that is from people who are so sure that they're right about something because they have all the facts. They have the figures. And besides, they're sort of mad that people aren't doing what they say. And that's because Mercury and Mars are in Virgo, opposing Neptune and Saturn in your sign. This is what you might call a wicked combination, but it's in an opposition. There's nothing favorable about it at all. And so this represents irreconcilable differences. Okay, so you could be having those now, Pisces. And my question is, okay, you know, sometimes Pisces are sort of willing to be sacrificial lambs, you know, to take the heat. Oh, you know, if somebody's being cruel to them, oh well, they'll just sit there and suffer. Pisces, you really got to get over that right now, because People with irreconcilable differences, remember that's Mars opposing your sun sign. They're willing to attack. They're willing to spread malicious gossip or make false accusations about you. They're willing to do whatever they can almost to destroy you. And you know why? Because they think they're perfect. That's why. They actually don't have any concrete reason for that, other than they think they're perfect, and in order to prove that they're perfect, they have to find victims. So they would want to hold you back, or hold you down, or weaken you in some way, or blackmail you, threaten you, challenge you. But that's not going to bring you any closer to them or them any closer to you. It's just their egos trying to prove that they're right about something. You know, Shakespeare wrote, "Methink he doth protest too much." Meaning people that are talking about how wonderful they are generally are not at all. I mean, it isn't up to one person to decide that they are, God's gift to the world. It's up to the world to decide that. And so, Pisces, you have to make up your mind just how much of a sacrificial lamb you want to be. Because this horrible opposition of these planets, which represent irreconcilable differences, can wear you down. You have a soft nature, okay? Your sign rules synthesis. It rules dreams. It rules seeing beyond the cruelty that's around you. Okay, so not everybody thinks like that, Pisces. They're looking for victims. And one of them could be you. And that could have been going on for a long time, Pisces. Think back. And when's it going to end? You have Saturn in your sign now. Saturn is a very strong, steady planet. You can't knock Saturn over. That's why it isn't too happy in Pisces. Because Pisces, it's a double-bodied sign. They can go in both directions. But not with Saturn there. Saturn makes a person face reality. And so that's what you've got to do, Pisces. It's just look around and just say, well, who loves me and who wants to harm me? And you really got to cut out those people that do not have your best interest in mind. It's not love they're offering you, it's hate. And they hate either themselves or something else, but they want to focus that hate on you, Pisces. You got to escape. Luckily, your sign rules escape. And you've got your own ruler in your sign. You can finally escape, Pisces. Get away from people who are going to cause you harm in one way or another. Really, you don't have to take that. Why should you? The water signs are healing water signs, but you do not have to be a scapegoat in order to heal somebody. What you have to be is a savior. Okay, so the saviors are not down there in the mud. The saviors are above. They are the light. And that's what you need to seek, is the light. And that's going to help you get away from the dark. If there's been any dark in your life, you need to escape it now, Pisces, because it's vehement. And this opposition, it looks like there's no winners, but your sign rules escape. And you've got your own ruler there. So do what you can. And if it involves making a dream come true, then head for the dream. That'll help you. Good luck. All right. Thanks for tuning in. I'm sorry this got to be a little bit long, but I do want to wish everybody a new beginning that is quite possible under today's new moon, as long as something old and outworn ends first. And then you can move on. and make that new beginning a reality. So good luck to everybody. And thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you could see the show if you subscribe to it on my Karen Campbell YouTube channel, and I'd be happy to send you that show every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. And you can read the blog on my website, starborninstitute.org, and that blog helps explain the theme of the show a little bit better. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you next week. Bye.